Hi everybody, welcome to this week's video lecture. Today we are going to be discussing a few things primarily from Chapter 6, but we'll look at a couple of things from Chapter 5. The assignment this week, your practice assignment, is from Chapter 3. Yeah, why did I say 3? It's from Chapter 6. I just said Chapter 6 because I looked over and I saw the number 3 and it jumped into my head. Chapter 6, and it is Geospatial Lab Application 6.1. And if you are in the second edition of the textbook, I am going to get you that page number. It is page 188. It's going to say GIS Spatial Analysis ArcGIS version. Now here's where the Mac people might be happier. If you go to page 177, you will see GIS Spatial Analysis QGIS version. If you have a Mac and you still don't have a way to make ArcMap work, you can download the QGIS software. And this lab exercise will walk you through that process, doing the same thing as you would be doing in ArcMap, but the process is a little bit different. You'll have a good understanding of what these functions do, what the queries do, but it won't be an ArcMap, so you'll lose a little bit as far as functionality, as far as having this to come back to when you do get your ArcMap working on your Mac, or if I can get that, I'll get that online information to you very soon. I've got an account ready to go. It has to be activated, and then we'll have that going. All right, so that's my housekeeping for the night or for the day, whatever time of day you would happen to be watching this. But let's get into the lecture portion. All right, so it was going to be over the major part of Chapter 6. We'll be discussing the query, the spatial query and the attribute query, some geoprocessing functions, and we'll do a little bit of technological updating with ArcMap and show you a few features we haven't covered yet, and that will be this lecture for the week. We'll also get further into Chapter 6 next week, where we'll discuss the union, the intersect, and other overlay type functions. I don't want to load you up on queries and those types of things this week because they can be a little bit. They're not that difficult, but if I try to lump them all into one lecture and one assignment, it can be confusing. That's why we're doing these things step by step. All right. So if you notice, I'm in ArcMap. This is not anything that you will necessarily need to follow along because I'm going to show you what you'll be doing in your some of the things you'll be doing in your assignment. I'm going to show you the query function, the spatial query, and the attribute query. But before I do that, I want to introduce you to something called the catalog right here. And the catalog is really neat. I'm just going to collapse that. The catalog allows us to do file management without going through Windows Explorer or whatever you use in the Mac. If I were to look at some of the data, some of my Esri data that I have, let me just show you what it looks like I'll show you what it looks like in the Windows environment. So I'm going to go to just where I have my data. Like here's my module 1, what was in the student packet. Keep going inside. And if I want to look at a geodatabase in the Windows environment, in the Explorer window here, I click on world.gdb. Look at all this. Look at all this insanity. There's all kinds of files that are coded and a lot of Python stuff in here. Stuff that I don't quite understand what these things mean. But if you look over here, you'll see GDB indexes, geodatabase table file. What the geodatabase does is if you've got a lot of different layers and a lot of different data types, it will put these things in here and index everything so that ArcMap can find that data really easily and have it show up on the map. But this is the raw, you're kind of looking at the raw data here. And Windows doesn't know what to make of this. It doesn't, if you try to open one of these in a Windows file, it just kind of goes, what? Huh? I don't get it. So I'm gonna hide that and show you what that looks like in the catalog, which is a file management system, again, primarily for ArcMap. Now what you'll need to do, I had a video over how to find your data, how to connect to your data. You'll need to connect to a folder or a drive using the connect to folder. If you've already done this, then you're good. If you haven't done this, then I suggest just connecting to an entire, like this is my external hard drive. This allows me to look at anything I've got in that external hard drive. If you were working with somebody, or if you were at work and you are working on a specific project and you don't want anybody just to plop down on your computer and start looking in there, then you can limit that to specific folders. But what I do is if I've got several folders in my external hard drive where I have data, I just link to the whole drive. Here you see I'm only going to have, on my main drive, I'm only going to have data in my documents file. So I went ahead and just made a link, a folder connection to the documents file, and I can get to anything in there. So let me go snooping around and find that same data. Okay, it's in ArcGIS, it's in ArcLessons, Module 1. Oh, it's in my student packet here. Data. And, oops, let's make that a little bit, maybe in the wrong thing here. There we go. I was in the wrong Module 1. Okay, so now you see the World GDB, and I'm going to open that up, and you'll see the difference. Look at that. That is much easier to look at than this insanity here. All of this gobbledygook, ArcMap is able to read that and translate it into these layers and these different types of files. So there you go. I want to show you something else as well, just to get you a little bit used to some of the terminology of ArcMap. Now this is on my external drive. You see E here, that's my external drive. And I have some files here. It's just some standard Esri data that they handed out for free a few years ago from the 1990s. It's not anything really recent. But in this USA file, if you'll notice here, I've got all of these say .shp. Remember from last week when we went over the different file types? I'm going to show you what that looks like, what those shape files look like. But remember that the shape file is the how did I get there? The shape file is the basic type of ArcView file. ArcView is a type of software that Esri made from late 1990s and till about 2005, 2006 was when people finally stopped using it and switched over to ArcMap. But it's in this folder here, and I go in that USA file. Look at all of this. I've got all this crazy stuff here. I've got, let's just look at this counties here. I've got counties.shp, that's my shape file that you saw over here in the catalog. Let me pop out that catalog again. Counties, SHP. Let's bring up this again. There's the counties SHP, but counties has also got a DBF, an AVL, a PRJ, SBN, SBX, blah, 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 blah. What counties has to have, what a shape file has to have at minimum is a .shp file, a .shx, that's an index that ties the two together, that ties the SHB to the DBF. So you have to have these three things minimum to get this to show up. Counties.dbf SHP, and SHX. The DBF is the table that you look at when you right click on the layer, you see the table. That's the table. The shapefile is the drawing, and the SHX links those two things together. All of these other things are other indexes, and other things are helpful. The PRJ is great because that actually tells you what projection and coordinate system you're in, just like from chapter 2. If you don't have a PRJ, you may show up in you may have some data that should be in Washington State and it shows up in the Gulf of Mexico. The PRJ tells it gives you the projection and coordinate system information. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and load some data, and here's this SHP, county's SHP. We'll go ahead and load that. I can go here to my catalog. There are a lot of different ways to add data. We have done so far the plus sign with the diamond, add data. We have done add data under file. Click on file. My computer's running really slowly. Okay, while we're waiting, there we go. File, add data here. That pops out. We have the little button there. Another way to do it is you can click here on, if I want to add counties, click and drag my counties and plop it in there. And what it's doing is it's going and reading the shapefile. It's looking at that SHX, the SBN, all of those things, the PRJ, to find out where this stuff goes. All right, so here's my counties, all the counties in the 48 states. If you wonder why it looks kind of funny, if the U.S. looks kind of stretched out at the top, that comes back to projections and coordinate systems. So I'm going to right-click here, and a couple of days later, when ArcMap gets through thinking, I want to see what, there's a couple of ways I can find out what the coordinate system and the projection is. I can click on Properties and wait for ArcMap to think. A couple of days later, I don't know why it's running so slow today, so it gives me a chance to talk. I go to Source. Remember, this is where you also go and set your data source, but it also tells you your coordinate system. And it tells me that I have a shapefile. It gives me my location here. It gives me the actual name of the file right here, counties.shp. And let's zip down here. It tells me we are in the Geographic Coordinate System, North American 1983. That means we have a round Earth model, and we are measuring things by an angle. Tells me the datum is North American 1983. Remember, datum describes the model of the shape of the Earth that they use to make the map, and the angular unit is degree. So I'm good with that. There's another hint. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. There's another hint that tells me what this is in. When I see decimal degrees here, as soon as I load up data, if I see decimal degrees right here, that's going to tell me that I'm in an angular measurement system, which means geographic coordinate system. It means it's not Cartesian coordinate system. If you look here, here's the 76.2 right here. That is your X coordinate. This is your Y coordinate. So this counts over from Greenwich, England. This is why you have a negative there. So it's counting degrees over from Greenwich. Gives you that negative there because if you look at a coordinate plane, this would be in the upper left coordinate. So that would make it in the negative part for X, because we're moving to the negative side of the Y-axis. All right. Here is your Y. That means right now where I'm located here is 8 degrees above the equator, 8 degrees north of the equator. Okay, so some little trick here. It looks funny. If I don't like the way that looks, I can I can't change, I don't want to change my data. I don't want to change the layers coordinate system. Well, let me put it this way. I don't want to change counties, that particular layer. I don't want to change that coordinate system. I can change it in my data frame, which is called layers. That's why I corrected myself a second ago. It's like, yes, I do want to change it for this part right here that says layers, but that's actually should say data frame, but it doesn't. So I can right click on that where it says layers. That's my data frame. And go down to properties here. And even though we haven't gotten into this yet, even though we haven't covered each one of the different types of projections or coordinate systems, so I want to make this look pretty. I will. I'll go into the projected, and I'm going to use UTM. And this we'll go over what UTM means later. I just want my data to look decent. I'm going to use my. Let's see. I think I'm going to center it out around here. Oops. Forgot to hit save, I think. Oh, no, there goes redrawing. Oops, it cut off. I went off a little too far. We're going to work around Texas anyway. This part of the Texas in the southwest out this way anyway. So I'm going to zoom in there. Poor Alaska. Kind of left out. So we'll zoom in here. We'll be looking at some of the counties around here in Arizona, Nevada, West Texas, New Mexico. All right. So recap. And I'm going to wrap up this video right now. This will be called part 1 before we get started on queries. And recap of this, we have a little introduction to the chapter. What are the key terms that we want to take away from this week? What are some file management techniques? If you can use catalog to do your file management, it's good to do that. Because you don't see all the other gobbledygook. If I make a copy of counties here, if I make a copy of counties there and I want to move it to another folder, Arc Catalog will make all the copies I need to do for it and take the whole thing and move it. If I do that in the Windows folder instead of in ArcMap, then I have to make a copy of every single one of those files and move it over. So file management, use your catalog to do that. And so that wraps up part 1, and we'll see you in part 2.